All right, so this is the Forge Contractor Alliance Podcast, and I'm Kenton Friesen. Kenton Friesen Contracting up in northern BC, doing exteriors, and I'm with Josh Eisworth, and we are the guys that sit down most often, although not exclusively, which is great.
Lately.
Yeah, lately it's been a wild combination. Josh runs Ridgeline Roofing and Solar, and has just been in business and going forward with business, man. Like, this is what you do, and so...
Yeah.
It's always good fun. And today we're digging into something that has been super meaningful for both of us, which is training guys, training young men.
Yeah. Building a team.
Yeah.
With a side note of recruiting in here too. So, because the two do go hand in hand.
Yeah. And I think in our conversation, we need to explore both what it takes to train well, and in order to train well, you got to recruit well.
Absolutely.
And so it's something that we are constantly fine-tuning, and we're not going to stop now. So yeah, come along for the conversation, and we'll see where it goes.
Sounds good. Let's do it.
There's no way that you can be sure up front that this investment is going to reap any returns. The flip side is you'll never get any good employees without investing.
If I don't intentionally train and we see what that person's made of, do we really want to invest that much time into them? Training.
Yeah.
So you know what it really is? It's multiplying your talent in your team.
Yes, it is.
And it's something that, if done correctly, you can drastically increase the productivity of an individual and have them be an effective member of your team so much quicker than if you just let them be a bystander and learn as they go.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're going to have a little conversation around this exact topic, because it's something that even after 12 years of this business, and honestly being in the trade since high school for me, that I'm actually I feel like I've just had epiphanies about this in the last 2 months, and realizing the importance of not just having people learn on the job. I've always used learning on the job as our training method, but the value in intentional one-on-one training and setting aside generating revenue for a couple days to actually have moments with at all levels. And I think we'll talk through that in this discussion, but where should you be focusing intentionally on training your staff? So,
you know, when I think about this, I think about when I was a little kid, my parents read bedtime stories to me all the time. And we had like a pretty intense schedule of reading, which is one of the formative things in my life, which I really am grateful to my folks for. My mom in particular, but my dad, when he would get reading, man, it got super animated.
I can see that.
It was like so intense. And then sometimes she'd be reading, my mom would be reading like some kind of like a Bible story or something to us. And then all of a sudden dad would come from the back room and just start acting it out for her. It was great. It was so great.
Oh, I could see it.
It's like, choice memories of when I was a kid. But anyway, the one story that I was thinking about in relation to training is like there was this story about this kid that was going to his grandparents' house, and he lived on one side of the mountain and his grandparents lived on the other. And there was this trail around the mountain that he would always go on. And one day as he was getting older, he finally figured out that it was actually shorter to go over the mountain, but there was no trail over the mountain. And so, but it was like physically shorter route. And so in his mind, he's like, well, I got to give this a shot. Well, it turns out to be a really long, exhausting day for him trying to get to his grandparents' house. He gets there and he's like destroyed. And his grandpa, and I for whatever reason, hey, you just remember these things from when you're a kid. His grandpa has this line that says, sometimes the longest way around is the shortest way home. And it was like, and I just remember this line to this day. I can guarantee you that exact line was part of that story. Like that was the conclusion. And the rest of it, I'm probably a bit rough on, but I just remember that line.
It hit home for you.
It totally, even as a kid, I'm like, this feels deeper than it looks, you know, like I feel like this is a life lesson. And I've thought about that line actually many times in my life, because there's so many times when you feel like, well, where we want to get to is right there, right there. So I'm just going to push through. And And I told you the other day when we were talking about training and a few different things that we're working on, is like I was just going out for a run down in Vancouver visiting my parents recently. And I wanted to get to this path over there, and I saw where the path led, and I'm like, I'm just going to get across this bridge and just cut through the bramble. But I get there, and the bramble is like thorns. It's blackberry bushes in that area in Fort Langley. Like, it's not something you push through. And I mean, yes, it would have been shorter, but man, I would have come out looking,
it would have hurt.
Oh, I would have come out looking a little different.
Yeah.
My clothes would have been done. And so I think when it comes to training, it's one of those things where the longest way around is really the shortest way home. Mm-hmm. Like, I think that there is a circuitous route from A to B that may not look direct, but it is actually worth going that longer route in order to develop long-term gains.
Yeah. I feel like in the trades, I've never worked for a trades company who hasn't trained just by having people on the job. Like I've worked in framing and painting and roofing and been around trades my whole life. And I've never actually seen a team be like, hey, you're not going to be on the crew today. We're going to intentionally train you. And I even remember when I was in high school and I got my first job at Walmart, my first 3 days, we're sitting in front of a computer doing training.
Yeah.
And they were not making any money on me.
Yeah.
And they were having to invest in me.
Yeah.
And that's just something that we don't do.
And you still love wearing blue vests to this day. Okay.
Black. They're black now.
Okay.
We've upgraded. We've gone from the Walmart blue to the Ridgeline black. But in the last weeks even, I've spent time with new hires and like set aside the mindset of just producing and pushing. And I'm a big lead by example. And this is where my biggest challenge with this is I love productivity.
Yes.
When I'm on a job site, I want to be as effective as I can be.
Yes.
And that means there's an element of where I want to pull the most effective components of a new hire out of them.
Yes.
And there needs to be a part of that in their development.
Yeah.
So what I'm toying with right now is
So sorry, what you're saying is that they need to feel like they're part of the stream of momentum and production. Like you want them to feel that at least some of the time.
Well, they have to, or else they'll just, because in any business, but especially in ours, like our systems and our productivity are what bring our success.
100%.
And
yes.
if they don't learn that, they don't feel it. Like if you just set them on their own thing and just let them, forever figure it out, figure it out on your own. Because that's kind of what I dealt with a new hire I'm dealing with in one of our markets. Brought him on, put him on the job site. And I was just like, very simple job, kind of circumstantially just... we were supposed to have 4 or 5 guys on a job, and it ended up just being me and this one guy.
Right.
And
he was brand new.
He had worked with the crew a week.
Okay.
So he had very, very, very new, but it wasn't like his orientation.
He
day
didn't
per
have
se.
his sea legs yet. He was just getting there. Yeah.
And what I did for the first time, I was just like, you know what? I can only do this job in these next few days, and whereas we were planning to do a few. Yeah. The situation was forced on me where I was like, I have a few days to do this job. I'm going to intentionally let him do things I would never let a new hire do. I'm going to let him screw up. I'm going to make him tear off product. And I did. And in every time I've been in a similar situation in the past, I would strictly focus on leading by example, have them assist me and learn from what I do.
Yeah.
Because it's a win-win because they're increasing my productivity. Yes. While they can, see the trade being done over, but they're not actually doing it themselves, right? Right. So that's how I've always done it, and that needs to be a part of it.
Anything that they are doing themselves at that point is strictly grunt labor. Like it's just basic. Like if you can walk and handle a shovel, or you can do this.
Yeah, they're carrying product.
Well, and if you're not afraid of heights,
cleaning up. Yeah. They're just laborious work. Yeah. And there were like moments when we were doing that job where it just made sense. I'm like, okay, we're going to do this together. Yeah. But probably 75% of the time, I just this side needs to be prepped, prep it. You've seen us do it last week. Do it.
You're right. Yeah.
And did he screw it up? Yeah. Did he take forever to do it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it super unproductive? Yeah. But by the end of that day of him prepping, he could prep by himself.
Right.
What would take... We have another new hire who's been working with us since like 6 months ago. And that guy I trained and who's only been with us a few weeks can now do more than the guy who has been working with us for 5 or 6 months.
Interesting. Because that guy's been with a bigger crew and staying to more the entry-level stuff.
And granted, he hasn't been pushed into like, hey... Because like when you teach somebody, intentionally train somebody, even if it's a kind of figure it out on your own model, they're going to suck at it. It's not going to be as efficient, and it's going to slow down the progress of your whole crew.
Sure. Yeah.
Because you have to sacrifice some of the productivity in order to let people figure stuff out.
Yeah.
And this is something...
Yeah.
And there's a balance, and I think every individual will have their own unique balance of how they should be treated.
And every once in a while, you get an employee that learns so fast that you barely have that interruption, where it's like they go from being a drain to a producer so quickly, and they set the bar so high that you tend to be like, well, if you're not going to learn that fast, then you're going to stay at grunt. Like, I think that can be a temptation on a big crew in particular. It's like, well, you know, like those that naturally just progress super easily, you're going to allow them that privilege, and those who don't are going to stay doing pretty menial stuff for a long time. I think that's the natural tendency.
Yeah. Oh, I totally think it is. But the result of doing that job with that guy is by the end of it, he could put on shingles pretty straight. We had him rip a few rows off, and and he made mistakes, and it cost us product, it cost us time. Yeah. But that job was not built around producing revenue and productivity. I used that job solely as a training platform. And I double checked everything he did. If it was bad, I redid it myself.
For sure.
So the customer still got their end result.
Absolutely.
It just took a little bit more time to get there.
Yeah. And most customers won't know what the exact like timeline should be anyways.
Yeah, they were expecting a 1 or 2 day job, and it was 3.
Yeah, fair enough.
That wasn't just because of the training. And I was pushing hard myself still getting the job done. Yeah. And it felt awesome. Like I said, the farmer's tan is coming out. But it just short-term loss, but man, the long-term gain of that guy. Because even though I've now put him back into the crew, he has a deeper understanding of everything. Yeah. And it's been, but yeah, I don't know the solution. He is a fast learner. I'll give him that. Yeah. But I just feel like there's something here about that absolute intentional learning time, because when I even was learning how to frame, in framing, I don't think you have a choice. I think at some point you got to get thrown into the fire. But I remember we were building this mansion of a house. Yes. And Jesse, he's like, I want you to build the landing for this staircase. Right. And it was like not a square or a rectangle. It had like different angles all over it. Yeah. And and I actually pushed back on him. I was like, man, I'm not ready for this. I've only been framing like weeks or months, and this seems like and the inefficiency of it was killing me. Because you know me, it's like
you want to do this and let's get it done.
I want to produce, and I, being a new hire, I saw my best value at the time as being like, I'm gonna haul this stack of lumber, put these studs up here, cut them all to size, lay them out for the guys, and I'll
run a chop saw. Yeah.
And that day I spent an entire friggin' day building a seriously 6x8 weird hexagonal, all crooked, weird. And I was super freaked out about screwing up. I had to redo stuff multiple times, and it was wildly and I pushed back, and he was like, no, you gotta figure this out. Like, okay,
we're gonna develop some value here.
Yeah. And I that's probably the only circumstance I can think personally in the trades where somebody actually like pushed me to, and I walked away from that day like everything else just felt a little bit easier.
Oh yeah.
And but how do you plan it systematically,
man? So
can you even?
I think that like the bigger part of this discussion is that in our particular trade, which is different than like my son is in a welding trade, and it seems like people journeyman welders kind of go from one company to another, just depending on what's going on and who's got the hot hand at the time. And it's kind of like there's this interplay between people just hopping around. Electricians, I find the same thing often, where you'll have someone that will work for one of our main electrical companies for a while and then another, and they're journeymen. There's a certain standard of knowledge that they typically have, and they're very interchangeable.
Yeah.
And it's partially because some of these trades have been much more developed from a educational standpoint, which is not education on the job only, but education on like formal training and formal standards that you have to hit, years of training in the classroom, etc., for you to get certain status. With roofing, that's a very new thing. With roofing, you know, when I cut my teeth in roofing, there was nothing I could do in steep roofing as far as certification. Nothing. It was like I was as good as the guy who trained me, basically, and my own ability to learn beyond that and to push the envelope. And so in our trade, I would argue even to this day, it's not the same where people just jump from one company to another with the same liquidity as in some of these other trades.
Yeah. Because
the standards that they come to are very, very different.
Yeah.
Like it's not, and so I think what I would love to do in this conversation is back off a tiny bit to what your and my experience has been both in finding fully trained tradesmen versus training from scratch, because I think it's an interesting conversation which we've had many times.
It is,
because
I haven't figured out yet.
Because how many experienced roofers have you brought on that you have kept for longer than a few months?
Longer than a few months? Only a couple. And even the ones that lasted a few months. I've never had an experienced roofer last longer than a year.
Yeah.
So all my long-term guys in my company were trained
from scratch
within the company.
Yeah. And many of them had never been on a roof per se before.
Most of them hadn't. No.
Yeah. Like,
and had no trades background.
Yes.
Like,
come from academic like families, quite a few of them, which I find interesting. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You've got like two of your key guys. Their dad is a principal of a school.
Yeah.
Like that's academic.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. I look at, and I've watched you interview really well qualified guys. And every time that you call me and be like, dude, man, I had an interview with a dude that's got the skills. And I'm always like, man, if there was only a way that could work for you. But it is challenging. And so then I look back at my career, and I've been training, like no kidding, I've been training in the trades short of a few years in between where I wasn't training people for a variety of reasons, and because my role has had seasons, I guess.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I've been training people in the trades for 34 years.
Mm-hmm.
Because instantly when I started my first company, I was training people immediately.
Yeah.
And they were always green. Like I trained new people pretty much throughout my career. And I was trying to think of driving in this morning. I was trying to think of how many people that I've trained from scratch to a place of competency, and I just literally have no idea.
Yeah, lots.
I just don't know.
Well, I'm one of them.
Yeah, and it's just like, and then interestingly, through your company, I've kind of been like a grandpa, which is like one uncle, grandpa. However, a lot of your guys have called me Uncle Kenny over the years, but it's like kind of like not a key person training them per se, but you have given me the privilege on occasion of spending a day here or there with your crew. When we collaborate on different things, and I get to like just kind of, I hope at least, enhance your training in those times and be part of like just a bigger picture for these guys. At the very least, want to challenge them to see that you can be quite a bit older and still be productive, and like give them a little bit more of an idea of like, I've had a great life and doing trades that not a lot of people have a ton of respect for. And so I think that that's also something that I try to instill in some of these kids is like, hey, like this is a good life. Like we're not bottom feeders here. We're men with posture, and we're doing good work, and it matters.
Yeah.
And so, but I remember the first qualified person that I hired who ended up becoming a major competitor of mine for many, many years. And I hired him, and it lasted exactly one season, and he produced well for me, but it was always a strain. Like it was never the same as when I would hire and train guys from scratch.
Yeah.
It just wasn't. And it wasn't that he was good roofer, and he was quick. There were certain standards that I had that he didn't share, which was challenging. But overall, he just never felt like a full team member. And I can't really say why. And after that, I can only remember hiring one person with any significant experience, and that person also a couple months, and it wasn't fun. Even though that guy and myself are good friends now. And so like it wasn't a relational thing. It was just like, it was just not, there's just tension because part of it is, and I think that this is something that you and I recognize, is that when we're training guys from scratch, we are not just training them to do the job, but we're training them to be men. We're training them to develop grit, and we're training them also to develop a certain posture required to meet the expectations of the customer base that we have.
Yeah.
Which is, there's a lot going on. Mm-hmm. And what I commented when you were talking about spending this time with this individual kid just recently, my comment to you was like, not only is he learning stuff, he's also learning to know his boss. And that is huge because he's getting a piece. If he's got any kind of like interpersonal skills, he will be picking up on cues from you and learning expectations somewhat organically and also directly from you, so that it's not filtered through anything else. And it's not that you can't have really good guys within your organization trained for you, which is mostly what you do. Like you have certain of your foremen and stuff that do a lot of your training. Yeah. And they are going to be training very much in a similar fashion and with a similar mindset that you have. Yeah. But when you are training guys from scratch, there is something very rich that's happening. If they're meant to be part of the team.
Well, that's honestly one of my biggest hindrances in my trade is like, I have lots of experienced guys who want to come work with us, and skill wise, even sometimes it's a great fit. Sometimes it makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
But where it always crumbles is culture. I find every single other roofer, and granted it's a rough trade and we do things so different.
Yeah.
But after spending months or years around other roofing crews, when they come into ours, it's just they've already established bad habits. They're smoking, they're swearing, they're not professional, and they're
wearing their pants much too low.
Yeah, or they're wearing jogging pants.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No.
And like just the overall professionalism and culture thing, I haven't figured out how to inspire people to change. And that's why, to this point, like as of right now, there isn't a single roofer who works for us that we didn't train from scratch.
Yeah. Which is wild considering the size of, it's not like you have 18 crews, but it's like you've got a lot of guys, you produce a lot of stuff, and that's a significant statement.
It's also wild that we don't intentionally train guys, like I was saying earlier.
Right.
Because we could be pumping out way more and building our teams way quicker.
So the challenge to that is that exactly because of what you alluded to earlier is that when you're training someone, you are sacrificing short-term production when you're really focused on that training process.
And you have to.
And that is challenging, especially when your schedule, like you have to schedule around it almost. Like
and that's what I think I realized doing is just like, because I love being on the tools with the guys, and I feel meaningful in it. I know it's good for me physically, and so at least I think everyone's circumstance will be unique around this. But for me personally, to just grab a job a week, add it into my crew's already existing schedule, so we can actually get an extra small job done. But my mindset on that job is like, yes, push myself, do all my normal stuff, but more intentionally focus on the individual and developing their skills.
Yeah.
The culture stuff has to come from the crew. The production, the systems, all that needs to come from their time with the crew.
Sure.
But what if I take a very simple job a week, I get to go on a job site and do what I love to do, because it's one of the most freeing parts of my job is actually being productive and running a job site.
Yeah.
But also have the more important component of teaching the skills to a newer member of our team. And then honestly, I think by the end of the day, I would also know if that new guy even has what it takes.
Yeah.
So that we're not wasting our time.
Well,
with someone long-term.
and I think that this is one of the things that is super challenging about training from scratch, because how many guys, and this number you will not know, how many guys have you trained for a couple weeks, couple months, and then they're gone?
Hundreds?
Yeah, like a lot of guys.
Maybe not hundreds.
It feels like hundreds for sure.
It does.
It's dozens for sure.
Man, my guys will bring up somebody. Oh, remember this guy you worked for?
Yeah, like
it's either holy cow, I forgot that person even exists.
Yeah,
my guys were telling me about somebody who was with us 2 years ago that worked the entire season with us, and
right.
I had no idea who they were talking about.
Yeah,
and I was like,
yeah,
wait, who is this?
Like, you have to go back and look at pictures.
Yeah, I actually do, because it's the amount of turnover, and we're not like multi national company or anything.
Yeah,
we're talking. I have 2 to 3 crews between all of our markets right now. Yeah. It's not that many guys, but the turnover is immense
at the very outset.
It is.
And so, and I think this is part of the challenge of investing a lot in training, because there's no way that you can be sure up front that this investment is going to reap any returns.
Yeah.
The flip side is you'll never get any good employees without investing. Like, it's just not going to happen. And so you have to invest. You have no choice. And the training is intensely, like, both you and I would find that seeing someone come in without skills and with maybe a lot of insecurity, etc., in a lot of different ways, and seeing them develop as a person, as a tradesman, the most rewarding part of what we do.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't think there's anything more rewarding in what we do. And when I look back at my career, the big win for me is having been able to be part of young men's lives, and to the best of my ability, helping them become productive, forward-thinking, successful guys. Yeah. And I'm actually going out right after we're done recording here and walking through a house with a young kid that wants to buy a home. That's a young tradesman and he's like, if he's 20, he just turned 20. He's a young kid. He's never been an employee of mine, but he went to school with my son, and he just gave me this call and said, "Hey, I want to look at this house." And my dad said, "I need to get you to look at it with me to make sure it's worth buying." And it's thrilling to me to be part of young guys' forward motion, seeing them develop posture. And this kid, like, what he's asking to do is going to be really hard. And what he's wanted to make sure of from me is that his effort is going to be worth it.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love being part of that. And so I think that the training aspect is critical, but there's always a certain inefficiency around it because some of it's going to be wasted. And I think about, like, bigger organizations really work extremely hard on vetting who they hire.
Yes.
Because they don't want to waste that time if they can help it. Secondarily, they lock you in.
Yeah.
And you can do that with certain careers. Like, I think about my brother-in-law, his airline, international airline, they sent him to a foreign nation for 6 months to train in one specific place where they train their pilots. And he was already a pilot, like a commercial pilot before that, but then they needed to integrate him into their system and their particular plane, etc., that they had designed for him. I forget the number. It was huge, the dollar value they invested in him before he ever earned them a penny. It was massive. Like, we're talking 9 figures. Like, it's a lot of money that they invest in their individual. And who knows, like, if you think about just the overall infrastructure that they have to develop for their training, etc., it's crazy what they invest. It's crazy. And so they lock him in, and he has to work with them for a certain, like, there's a contract that's involved with this. But there's also, like, they're unapologetic. Like, you don't step on that plane in their uniform until you've been done the paces. Like, and good thing. Like, you know, we rely on these people.
I'm grateful for that.
But I think, like, what we're doing has different consequences for a lack of training. You know, you're not going to kill 800 people in cold blood. I mean, you're not, you know, it's not going to be the same severity. If a mistake is made, you can rip off a few shingles and replace it. I mean, worst case scenario, if you're not training safety properly, people can get pretty
that's true.
And so there is, it's not like there's no consequence, but But proper training in the trades, like essentially just investing heavily in your new hires, is so worth it in the long run, providing they stick around.
I want to go back a little bit what you were just saying about corporate companies, and it brings a good point of what's more important, your training or your recruitment process.
Man,
when it comes to turnover, I would argue it's more important that your recruiting is better.
Yes.
Because this is something
and
like in
is.
the corporate world, it's a big deal that we as trades companies, we're like, I need somebody, you look decent.
Yeah.
Sure, come try it out, you know? Whereas my brother-in-law, Shane, when he got a job at the highest end consulting firm in the country.
Yeah.
And it was a vetting process that, like, 4-stage interview, presentations in front of panels, personality tests, like lots of written tests, and like they have like a 1% acceptance rate to get on board in this company. And it's like, you look at that, but it's they have a team whose full-time job is recruiting.
Yes.
And they're spending millions.
Yes.
And even when he got in, they offered him like, hey, if you want to go, we'll give you 3 months paid to go find another job. And they like basically showed him the back door as soon as he walked in the front.
Wow.
It was weird how these big corporations bring on and retain their staff, because their turnover is very low.
So the strange thing is, it should be, or else they got to fire their HR guys, because like honestly, but it's interesting from a trades perspective, because I feel like I'm a pretty good judge of who can and can't make it in our trade. I feel like I should be at this point. I feel like you're also a good judge of this, but we also can both be completely wrong.
Oh man, I've been so, like, even last year I had this one guy come interview, and in the interview I'm like, this guy's gonna kill it. He's gonna just show up and just be awesome. And he showed up and he was the worst guy we tried out in years. Totally missed it. Just totally missed the mark.
And conversely, I can remember probably twice, but once in very particular, where I was collaborating with you guys on a job at the time, on a big project, and you hired a friend of one of your guys, and man, this dude had he was in retail. He was selling clothes before. And he
no trades experience,
and
none.
He dressed well, so that's great. But I was like, after one day, I was like, he's not coming back. He looked like he was gonna physically die. And he was, and it wasn't like he produced. It was just like, just being on the roof was like killing him. And I gave him pretty much a 0% chance of success. He worked with you for how many years? Like
7?
Yeah.
Long time.
And
one of my longest
he had his ups and downs, but overall, man, he was like a producer for you. And there was areas that he was really strong. Like he was
a big part of our company for a long time.
And his customer relations was fantastic.
Awesome.
And his like he brought a lot to the team. And I literally, and I told him straight up, like a couple months later, I'm like, I am totally shocked. Like, I did not give you a snowball's chance. Like, it was not at all.
I remember that conversation.
And so like I think that this is the challenge for us. On the flip side, there's guys that I know are going to make it. If I hire a kid off a farm, that has grown up doing chores and pulls weight,
for the most part, yes,
90% of the time, they're going to succeed. Like your average on them is going to be 10 times higher.
It is 10x,
than anyone else that you hire. It's like, if you find a farm kid that wants to do the job, you hire them. Like you just do.
But they were raised in a work mentality.
Oh yeah.
So and physical work.
Their level of hard is different. Their level of discomfort, of handling discomfort, is different. Their level of being able to follow orders is different.
The elements don't bother them nearly as much. They're used to it.
Their ability to do something regardless of whether it's snowing or raining, or like the cows need to be fed, they need to be fed. Like it's not like, oh, I don't feel like it today. And so there's just so much inside of a farm kid, and when it comes to trades, the translation is so great. And I've gone to the point where the last farm kid that I hired, it's just such a great friend at this point. Like, we just developed such an amazing relationship, and I hired him like without question, but he had just gotten married and he was very young. And I just knew that I had this small window because I knew his family fairly well. And I'm like, he's going to need cash right now. Like, he's got all his long-term is taken care of. Like, the kid is on the way. He built a house from scratch for cash. Like, the dude at like 21 or something like that.
Wow.
Like, the dude's got it figured out. Like, but I knew that he needed cash because he could live on nothing, but I knew his wife couldn't. and so I knew that for him, it was all about the future, and he's just so forward thinking. But I'm like, he's going to need some cash over this next while. So I just worked it out with him. I'm just like, here's what we're going to do is like, there's times when I really need help and there's times when I don't. And we're going to coordinate. I'm going to coordinate my jobs around his schedule so that when I need the extra hand, I could have him. And when not, then he could go and do the stuff on his farm that he needed. Because in planting season, forget it. Like, he couldn't, like, it was wrong for me to even expect anything. Same as in harvest, but there's chunks of time all around those areas that are just absolutely open and, and I knew that wouldn't last forever because I knew that he was going to move into more and more responsibility. And sure enough, he's bought like lots of land now and he's given her. And so, and he's developed his own company in other ways. And so he's doing amazing, but I had a couple amazing years with him and it was just so fun.
Man, I almost got to set up a booth at the farmer's market just for recruiting.
Yeah, actually, that is a brilliant thought.
It actually is.
Go to the 4-H event and like, yeah, absolutely.
We should do that.
That's really,
man, so many of the most successful, like, even if they're short term,
totally
hardworking, just awesome kids were from, and then we got a lot of farms around here.
We do.
So
we do. And they're not, there's very few big farms, but there's a lot of small farms that like all of those like qualities are just instilled in the kids.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, that's funny. That's actually a good thought.
Yeah, but well, and that's why, like, seriously, the reason it's a big thought is that recruitment, that mindset, and it's something we're actually, what day is it today? Thursday. So tomorrow we're onboarding with a recruiting platform specifically because I just see the importance of it.
Oh, interesting.
To be constantly, like, training, what this whole thing started around. There's obviously immense value and it's something we haven't systemized yet. We don't have a strict training protocol.
And are you going there?
Well, we have to.
Yeah.
Because even with the two really go hand in hand, because even if I'm recruiting at a high level, everything we said, if I don't intentionally train and we see what that person's made of, do we really want to invest that much time into them? The recruitment software we're doing is supposed to vet that and score them on potential retention, culture fit. It gives.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's a new AI platform.
Oh, so gee, here we go.
Yet another one that's going to integrate with all of our CRM and everything.
Yeah.
But even with all that information and what the tests show, two components to it. One is having that intentional hands-on time to know in days or weeks instead of weeks or months if they're actually a good fit is a big deal.
Huge deal.
And then secondary to that, after that intentional training time, whether it's a couple days a week or 2 weeks away from the crew, they will come out of that. And if they stick around, their output will be outrageously high compared to if we do it how we have been doing, which is how most trades company do it, which is just, here's your tool, shadow this guy, pay attention, ask questions, figure it out.
Yeah.
Because that's how we've trained. And just like that method works to a certain standpoint. That's how my whole company was built.
Sure.
But
and I think that even in our history of starting out together when you started in the trades, it was that way. Like, it wasn't super formal training, but it was very intentional.
Yeah.
And so my training style has always been not super formal, quite flexible depending on who I'm training.
Yeah.
But always very intentional to see growth.
Yeah.
And so that doesn't translate into a system. Like that takes some work to translate into a system. Let's put it that way. It can, but yeah.
And you know what? Like, I learned how to train probably mostly from you.
Yes.
And there's value in that. And again, you couldn't just pull a guy and work one-on-one with them and and leave them to their own, failures only.
No.
Like having them work with the crew and experience the momentum, the productivity, learning the systems on how to be a good teammate, and the cultural component, that's equally as important.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm really working through right now. Is like, where's the mixture? How long should this new hire work with the crew before you pull them out?
Well, and I was just going to say, like, there is, in my estimation, and I remember, and it's kind of funny because it's one of those things, like, how do you throw a Frisbee when you've thrown it all your life? Like, it's hard to break it down in a sense, and so it's hard for me to think of exactly what I have done in my life as I train someone, but for sure, when it comes to being on the roof and on heights and stuff, one of the things that I try to do first is make sure that they're safe and that they have the aptitude. Because if they don't have the aptitude to be up there, and you can see by the way they move by the second or third day typically, and again, I've been wrong, but typically you will see, like, okay, this person is physically not clumsy. Like, I had a guy who worked with me in the cabinet shop, was fantastic in the cabinet shop, but he was incredibly clumsy. He went to work for a high-rise company at one point, like way before he worked for me, and he kicked a crowbar off of like a floor 19 or something like that in Vancouver. Ooh. And he was fired instantly.
Yeah, no kidding.
And he was just simply very clumsy. Like, he was just clumsy. And weirdly, he was very skilled working with his hands, but by golly, like, he was clumsy.
You can't have someone clumsy in heights.
Yeah, and it was funny. He was like, "Yeah, I made one mistake on my first day, and that was it." I'm like, "That's fair."
Yeah.
And I think that what I've always looked for is, like, I want to make sure that they are competent enough physically to be able to do this before I invest anything in them.
Yeah.
Because you can talk well, you can interview well, you can have, and even with your new recruiting AI stuff, they won't know that. They won't be able to tell. Way to see that. Well, I mean, unless they come from like a background of climbing or, something that would translate that says these guys are capable, like, have this kind of skill, but that's very rare.
Yeah.
And so I think that, for me, and you're right, the question is, we need to take them aside. They need to learn some of these things early on. At what stage? And I think, for most people, you got to give them at least, in the week zone, like around a week to a couple weeks, to just see if they can work. Like, that's important. Like, they've got the ability to sweat. They're not going to produce well at the beginning, that, but you can tell if they're trying. That matters. And to see if they're freaked out, because I always find, like, if you're scared to a certain degree, then you're just not safe for the other guys around you.
Yeah.
And that's not good. It's not good on a team. And that you look like you want to do this.
Yeah.
Like, and so if you've got those things, then very early on, you've got to start to train, because I think for guys who are forward thinking, if you leave them in the grunt role for too long, that gets very depressing.
And it happens.
Oh yeah.
Because we leave space for people to, take initiative and grow.
Yeah.
But even one guy we're dealing with right now who was super promising out the gate is like 1 foot out the door, because it's like, I'm not advancing. And we're like, well, that's partly, and we feel like it's like, well, we've been encouraging you to, and you kind of refuse.
Yeah.
But it also makes me wonder if, because he never went through a intentional one-on-one.
Have you given him a path?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and all the guys have that path. We like having guys who at least show some initiative.
Yes.
Into their own development and growth.
Yeah.
You can't hold their hand through everything.
Yeah.
But it makes me wonder if he didn't go through an intentional training week or 2 jobs of just very heavy, you're doing this, and if you screw it up, you're going to tear it up and do it again. If you screw it up again, I'm going to hold the nailer and put it on, but you're going to, I'll
set it and then
you're going to get it or you're not.
Yeah.
And I just wonder if with this young guy who, again, when we hired him, we thought he was going to be a rock star.
Okay.
And turning out not so much, but would he have been, or could he still be if he
I was going to say,
time?
Is there a way to redeem this situation? Possibly.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's worth it.
It's all part of the learning curve.
Yeah. If you feel like the potential's there.
Yeah.
Yeah. What a great conversation. Like, it's one of those things where I think, again, the feeling that we get from doing this well is unmistakably fantastic. Like it's definitely so rewarding.
Mm-hmm.
The frustration when we do it poorly is like you feel it pretty deep.
Oh, and the waste of time.
Yeah.
The amount of time I've put into guys that just I never should have.
Yeah.
Or I trained wrong and then they end up leaving, or they're just not productive during the training. Like it's a big deal.
And fine-tuning this and doing it better. And I think that is the key to so many of these things that we discuss is like, it's not like we're going to flip a switch and be perfect, because that's just not going to happen. But fighting our way through to something better is so to be more effective, to be, so the recruitment process, the percentages are higher, and the training process just really takes people with potential and maximizes that to the best of our ability. That's huge, man.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
It's worth the challenge.
It is. And it's worth the focus and actually developing a system around.
Totally.
Which is something I've never done, and I haven't even done it yet, but from just the last few weeks of, testing the waters with things, I recognize like, oh man, this is a big deal.
Yeah.
So time to lock it in and build a system, get it done.
Absolutely. Oh, that's awesome. Well, thanks for the conversation.
It's good.
All right. Thanks, guys.